Damn, what the hell is this? Battler! What is this? It was a barrier, a massive cage of crystal. Battler was shut inside a crystal cage like a tower so large you had to look up to see the top. Beato, I need you to take care of Angie. What will you do? Can you break free from this all by yourself from the inside? Is this a closed room barrier? Who could have? There's only one person who'd challenge me with a closed room. Looks like our final guest has finally arrived. You don't mean... Go and take care of Angie. Beato left Battler to handle this on his own and headed for the chapel. Battler took a deep breath and smiled daringly. I've been waiting for you. Was it boring in that depths of oblivion place? The answer was a laugh. Yeah, that's right. That laugh is enough. Looks like you're doing well. It wasn't boring. After all, I believed. I'll bet you did. I believed too. Battler flung off the cape of the Territory Lord. It would only get in the way, and it would be a rude way to welcome his final guest. Those dark depths were the perfect place to think of mysteries I could fight you with when we met again. So this crystal cage is the ring for our duel, a chain death match with nowhere to run. Now that you mention it, we're always fighting over closed rooms with chains. Then let's use that. Make it a real chain death match. I'm prepared, but what about you? I am. I told you, didn't I? I believed too. At the same time, they both brandished their mysteries, sealing the other in a chained closed room. Come, Furuto Erika. Entertain me, Battler Shuama Shuan. At the same time, they were both sealed inside a closed room, locked with a chain. Of course, it was easy to set and unset the chain from the inside. However, stepping into their opponent's chained room would be difficult. They were fighting to the death with two chained closed rooms at once. There could be no better closed room duel for these two who had battled with theories concerning chained rooms so often. Furuto Erika committed suicide, died in an accident, died of an illness, died by some reason other than homicide. It wasn't a suicide, it was an accidental death. It was a death by illness. I really was killed by you, Battler-san. It was a murder committed by slipping poison gas through the crack of the door, by filling the room with water and drowning you, by sucking the oxygen out of the room and making you suffocate. There was no poison gas, there was no drowning, there was no death by suffocation. Haha. A closed room murder with poison gas, death by drowning, suffocation. Haha. Crazy, right? It's funny, isn't it? Good. Ushiromiya Battler committed suicide. He died in an accident. He was killed by an illness. Time for me to test your closed room. Red truth. Ushiromiya Battler was stabbed to death. Let's say the weapon was a knife stuck right into his back. Good. Nothing beats a classic closed room. Then, why don't you try it too? I'll take that challenge with a red truth. Furuto Erika was stabbed to death. The weapon was a knife stuck right into her back. Interesting. I'll tear your closed room to bits. What's this supposed to be? Battler is busy at the moment. For now, I shall be your opponent. Beato had sealed the chapel with a closed room barrier. Unless that riddle was smashed with blue truth, Angie wouldn't be able to leave. After shrugging impatiently, Angie finally faced Beato. This might be the first time I've fought you directly. Oh, is it now? Very well, let's see what you've got. However, Battler isn't here at the moment. When he's not around, I sometimes forget to hold back. What a coincidence, I feel the same. I killed you inside a perfect closed room with windows, doors, and all other methods of entry or exit blocked. Okay, I'll play along with your game. Repeat it. And then, you see, we'll set it up so that among the works entered in Company's X Mystery Novel Contest, yet another of the great Hachijo's works will appear under a false name. Of course, we'll then move on with a movie version and a TV drama bundled in. We here at Company X would be honored to accept your manuscript. And am I getting prize money out of this? But of course, the 10 million yen prize for the Company's X's first mystery novel contest will all go to you, and much more besides. Splendid. You've caught my interest. That's why I've decided not to write up a manuscript for you. What? But Madam Hachijo, why? Everything had seemed to be going smoothly up until then, so this sudden refusal made the people from the publishing company fall all over their sofa. This little scheme of yours is far more interesting than the manuscript I wrote. In that case, it wouldn't be fitting to hand it over to you. It was always a worthless story. I wanted to lure my ignorant readers into lauding it, making them feel as though they'd performed some magnificent reasoning. I was hoping that you children of men would recognize the irony and laugh at your own mistakes, but it looks like you've taken it seriously. Yes, I can say I'm ashamed of my own failure as a writer. Of course not. Please forgive us, please. Let us use your... I have no need for money, but some pet food would be nice. Pet food? Oh, for your cat? There was a rumor that you had a cat who liked dried plums. Yes, as you wish. Are the dried plums just people? Quickly, let's have a high-quality assortment of dried plums brought in here. She only eats the ones that are packaged separately at 200 yen apiece. At this rate, she'll die of high blood pressure. She snacks on kimchi and spicy miso all the time, too. Really, there must be something wrong with that cat's tongue. Meep. That cat meowed at an objection from where it lay on top of the bookshelf. I cannot give you this manuscript, but why don't I write up a new one for your company's contest? However, I won't write it under my name. It's estimated that thousands of manuscripts will be sent out for your contest. If you manage to pick mine out from the pack, and if you also find it deserving of the prize, then I would be happy to continue our discussion just now. How does that sound? Just the honor of receiving your manuscript is more than enough. You people truly are amazing, fawning and cringing all the time, but I've grown weary of this for today. Leave now. Meeting with children of men can be so tiring, haha. We are deeply grateful for your kindness in allowing us this meeting. A servant guided the people from the publishing company to the door. In the study that was now finally quiet, Hachijo Toya let out a sigh, slumped down on the sofa, and gazed at the ceiling. It is tiring, but the stimulation of talking with a child man isn't such a bad thing in small doses. It's good for you to talk to people every now and then. You'll go senile if you stay shut in all the time. The black cat leapt from the bookshelf and landed softly on the carpet. Then its form silently twisted and became that of Berncastel. Indeed, they certainly can be entertaining. Inviting them over now and then may go a long way towards alleviating my boredom. At any rate, I think I will write that manuscript when I feel like it. It sounds like they'll eventually bring a gift for you. What's all this about pet food? How rude. Well, that's what it is. Here. Hachijo picked up a jar from the shelf, then took a dried plum out and threw it into the air. In an instant, Berncastel turned back into a cat, caught in midair, and started munching away. Madam Hachijo, your guests have departed. The servant knocked on the door before making this announcement. Thank you. Let me know if that one wakes up. As you wish. Would you like some tea? No. I'm going to write for a bit. Please do not disturb me. Yes, ma'am. After waiting for the servant's footsteps to disappear into the distance, Hachijo moved to her desk. The desk certainly looked as though it belonged to a great writer with pages manuscripts scattered across it. Even though the century is almost over, you still write with a pen? The black cat spoke as it tore the dried plum apart with its mouth. Tales are to be written with ink. I agree. To me, that is an unbreakable rule. So, you write it once with ink and then type the whole thing over again with a keyboard. Pretty stupid, doing the same thing twice. In that case, why does a child of man draw up a tale in their mind and then spit the whole thing out again on a keyboard? How foolish of them to do the same thing twice. Look at it that way, and you're doing the same thing 3 times. Piff, cackle, cackle. That was a good one. Even as Hachijo left, her fountain pen was already sliding across the page. Beautiful letters appeared almost as fast and proficiently as a typewriter. Only humans called her creations manuscript. With her fountain pen and writing paper, she was creating a world. As she did, the hands of the clock would spin around like a top. The light and the shadows that came in through the window changed their angle so fast they might have been the hands of the clock themselves. Slowly, she drew a large X across the tightly packed words on the paper. Having trouble? I can't draw it out well. Writing a manuscript to please people is truly a pain. After all, I don't usually write for other people to read. You should try writing down whatever it is you're saying on that manuscript in paper. Burncastel curled up on the sofa, a mocking smile on her face. Normally, whenever Hachijo was writing, Burncastel would never let herself be noticed, much less talk to her. However, Burncastel realized that the other was apparently getting bored with her manuscript, so she yawned and started talking. What is it you're writing anyway? A tale to give to a child of man. Which child of man? It's a tale I promised to write for Umineko, who once read for me. Ah, you're still writing that. I can't think of anything to write that would give her satisfaction. Looks like Ao's giving up yet again. You always promise to write a story, then get stuck yet before you finish and give up. If I had given up, I wouldn't be worrying over it like this. There's only one tale that Angie wanted from the beginning, the tale of the single truth. Angie said she wanted to know what happened that day. No matter how many tales you write distorting the truth, she'll never be satisfied. And yet I do think my tales are far more interesting than the single truth. Angie doesn't want to read an interesting tale. I promised that child of man that I would write a tale for her sake, so I'm writing a tale to please her. No matter how interesting or uninteresting it is, everything you write is an illusion. Angie doesn't want any of that. Haven't you figured that out yet? The Book of the Single Truth was written by Ushiromiya Eva. Hidden amongst the pile of writing paper was Eva's diary. Furthermore, the one who wrote this passed away without revealing it to anyone. Being the humble writer that I am, I would like to respect that. Don't make me laugh. Is this coming from the person who entertains herself by taking a tale and tearing out its guts? The truth is uninteresting. Is that your opinion of after tearing apart the guts of so many tales? You might as well say that. With a self-mocking laugh, Hachijo set down her fountain pen. I certainly have aged. The first thing age taught me was that not knowing is more precious than knowing. That definitely sounds like something an old person would say, but I'll bite. What do you mean? Knowing and not knowing. These two things have a one-way relationship. True, it's possible to switch from not knowing to knowing, but you can't do it the other way around. When I realized that, I saw the noble purity resembling virginity that exists in not knowing. In my attempts to escape boredom, I've torn apart and eaten the guts of as many games and tales as there are stars in the sky, but always my relief from boredom is short-lived. It's also fleeting that I've started to ignore each tale as an individual story. That's right. If you eat a cat, then you only get to enjoy it for one night, but if you let it live, it might start calling you names and getting sarcastic. Indeed. Even the annoying way they break into your sweets cupboard or sneak into your bed can be part of their charm. Hachijo looked around at the books, covering every square inch of the room, then softly petted the cat's back. I might have been able to enjoy a single tale much longer and much more deeply. As I've eaten my way through countless tales to escape boredom, I haven't really been eating them, I've just been killing them. And in the end, they'll kill me back. Hachijo laughed with self-derision. Even in Beato's game, you tried to tear the guts out. I just wanted to check my answers. I did try to do it in a way that respected Beatrice, the weaver of this tale. Yeah. I think it was pretty well read, all done so that people who didn't understand wouldn't figure it out. Will it make for a better tale if Angie learns the truth or if she doesn't? To be honest, I don't know anymore. So fully aware that you'll scorn me for it, I've decided to stop writing the rest of this tale. What do you mean? I won't write it. I will merely record it. The tale that Ushiromiya Angie weaves herself. So, you're going to do that sort of thing again? After growing tired of 1,000 years of life, I've decided that choosing not to know the truth is the more noble path. However, I now see that it isn't fair to force my opinion on Angie, who hasn't lived even 100 years. So, you're going to leave it in Angie's care. Yes, I will silently record it as it plays out. If you're leaving it to Angie, then the rest of this tale is pretty much set in stone, right? So it would seem. Let it be so. After all, in the end, a tale that a child of man weaves for herself would be more fun than any story I could create. In that case, why don't you lend a hand in Angie's tale? You've already given yourself a role in it, haven't you? So it is my role to bring this tale to its conclusion. Come on, that's no way for someone in Beato's game to talk. It's your job to tear the guts out of the cat's box. Hachijo chuckled, pushed aside the pile of writing paper, and picked up the book of the single truth. Then she opened a locked drawer. That is what Angie desires. Perhaps this book's seal is fated to be broken. Angie will reach the single truth. The single truth will break the seal on the cat box, and everything then will be exposed to the light of day. And so, all of those countless message bottles and fragments made of the delightful imaginings which have been scattered across the ocean of the internet will fade away like foam on the sea. After all, even that person has surely tired of such fragments. It's about time for that kid's journey to end too. Yes, let us accept this task. As our role demands, let's give this journey an end of the line. At that moment, there were sounds of someone in the hallway. The instant someone knocked on the door, Burncasil turned back into a black cat. Madame Hachijo, please forgive me for interrupting. It was the voice of Hachijo's servant. What is it? If it's a phone call, tell them I'm busy. It isn't that. Toya-sama has woken up. Thank you. Prepare a light meal. Enough for the two of us. As you wish. Hachijo stood up. Then she shut the open drawer and locked it again. Inside that drawer lay a glittering golden key. Repeat it. The definition of a closed room prevents all varieties of entering and exiting. I refuse. By definition, it's impossible for a closed room murder to take place inside a perfect closed room. The chain might have been repaired after it was destroyed. The door might have been repaired after it was destroyed. The wall might have been repaired after it was destroyed. My closed room doesn't involve anything being repaired. Good. This really is getting fun, Battler-san. Sorry, but I don't have time to play with you right now. I'm sorry too, but as a fellow Witch of Truth, I can't let you get in Angie's-san's way. Come to think of it, you're a Witch of Truth too, aren't you? I guess that makes you a sort of mentor to Angie. The single truth. It is the supreme and ultimate. Only a Witch of Truth can break down all barriers that stand between her and that truth. Is that the single truth of yours really so important? There are lots of things in this world that aren't worth knowing. How important is 1986 to Angie, really? It isn't important at all. Giggle. You're probably right. No matter what happened or didn't happen in 1986, it won't change anything for the Angie living in 1998. There's no point in learning the truth. However, there is just one thing that will change. What's that? How she lives. Erica transformed her reasoning into a scythe blade and lashed out at Battler over and over. Battler also created a blade from his reasoning and attacked Erica over and over. And in the middle of all of this, he questioned Erica, the girl who, like Angie, called herself a Witch of Truth. Just what is the point of exposing the truth? You're right. Angie's also supposed to be a Witch of Resurrections. Knowing often changes how a person lives her life. In that case, I have one hope as her blood relative. I hope that at the end of my game, Angie finds a better way to live her life. Knowing may change how people live, but not always in a good direction. There are plenty of things in this world that you'd be more comfortable not knowing. The number of ticks living in the seats of a train. Those urban legends about nasty stuff in the tap water. The world's full of things you're better off not knowing. The Book of the Single Truth probably can teach Angie what happened on this island, but what's the point of her knowing that? It'll just increase the sadness she's felt for 12 years. How many more years will it take for her to find happiness as an ordinary girl? How many years will it take for her wounds to be healed? She's also like one of the richest people on the planet. I'm pretty sure she can figure something out. Angie's desire to find the truth is hurting her, regardless of what that truth actually is. Though her deep wounds were slow to heal, they did begin to do so during those 12 years. However, Angie kept picking at the scabs. In her search for the truth, she tore at those wounds herself, opening them up once more. It's time for Angie to be free of the sadness of 1986. That's what all of us Ushiromiyas pray for. Who cares about that? The truth is everything. The truth is justice. It's a disease everyone gets at least once, usually in middle school. They just love to find out all those things adults are hiding. But don't you think it's fun to expose things like that? Yeah, totally. Reading dirty books wouldn't be nearly so fun if you didn't have to do it in secret. Piff. Wahaha. I deny all of your blue wedges with the red truth. None of the methods you suggest could defeat my closed room. Angie was breathing heavily. The book of the single truth was right before her eyes. If she could just defeat Beato, she'd be able to take the book to Bernkastel, and then she could read what was inside. Even though the truth of the final family conference on October 4th and 5th, 1986 was right there, the Golden Witch stood in her way. Her anger and hatred spun around inside her head, wiping out the composure necessary to theory-making. Angie shook her head several times, clearing away everything that got in the way of her calming mind. However, no matter how many times she thought it through, the closed room sealing her in the chapel was perfect. Angie wasn't particularly familiar with the mystery genre. However, she knew about all the fragments containing Beato's game so far. Her knowledge was shallow, but it should still have been enough to give her a good foothold. However, no matter how many blue truths she shot at Beato, none of them even made the witch flinch. Beato just blew them apart with the red truth and an elegant wave of her pipe. It's about time you gave up. I don't even view this as a game between the two of us. Are you implying that I could never solve this puzzle? I'm just buying time until Battler finishes dealing with Erica. He's the only one who can bring you to your senses. Bring me to my senses? You're the ones making me do this by hiding the single truth. That's why I'm fighting you. This is my right. As the final member of the Ushiromiya family, I have a right to know the truth. Indeed, and that is the purpose of this final game. That's right. Without this final game, I wouldn't have been given a chance to reach the truth. At least for that one thing, I'm grateful. But as for what happened in 1986, as for who took your relatives and your family away from you, as a human, your desire to know that truth is quite natural. However, even knowing this, Battler decided that it would be best if you didn't return to 1986. I know what Oni-chan's trying to say. He's telling me to look to the future and live instead of being stuck in the past, right? Correct. Battler wanted to use this final game to show you that. In that case, there's no need to keep waiting for my answer. The answer's no, Golden Witch. I died back in 1986. I've wandered about like a ghost for 12 years. Since then. And when Aunt Ava died, I lost my only reason to stick around on this earth as a ghost. That's why I decided to do one last thing before ending my life. And that thing is learning the truth of 1986. Yeah, got a problem with that? Of course I do, you foolish girl. So if you do reach the truth, you'll die? In that case, I can't let you have it. I must trick you and blind you as much as I can to keep you alive. Battler wants you to live. Living without truth is no better than dying. I'm trying to find the truth so I can live. You just admitted that you were searching for the truth so you could die. Yeah, that's right. Then let me rephrase that. I'm trying to find the truth so that I can die. I offered up my life when I made my contract with Bernkastel. All so I could learn what happened that day. That single truth will be the souvenir I take with me to hell. Also the epilepsy for anyone watching this video. It's useless. You cannot break this closed room. This closed room is perfect, and yet I will kill you in this closed room. She had tried every theory, idea, and every bit of nonsense she could think of. However, none of it had any effect on Beato. Powerless and frustrated with the book of the single truth right before her eyes, Angie bit her lower lip. At first, this was supposed to be a game in which you were given a key that would let you decide your future. Liar. You wanted to hide the truth in this chapel, then make me choose a door that leads to some optimistic future. That's not a choice you're trying to decide for me. Parents have the right to prevent their children from making unsuitable choices. I'm not a kid. I'm an 18-year-old woman who can think and act for herself. Fool. You're just a 6-year-old girl who can't think of anything except the past. And whose fault is that? Because of you, I've been stuck as a 6-year-old all this time. Now it's time for me to tear apart your illusion covering the truth. Yes, now that I think about it, it's not this chapel that you've locked me inside. Since that day in 1986, for all these years, you've had me locked away in a closed room where I'm all alone and where no one will tell me the truth. And now I'll tear your closed room apart with my own hands. Yeah, it's useless, all useless. I know the trick to your perfect closed room. Repeat it. You murdered me immediately after shutting me in this closed room. I refuse. Of course. You've been killing me for 18 years. Thanks, Beatrice. If you hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't have figured out the trick. Angie, you are young and you have a long future ahead of you. In fact, you are the Golden Witch who lives in the future, are you not? Then live on in the future. Just how much are the pastures really worth? Don't they pale in comparison to the truth of the future, the truth you'll create for yourself? My life is trash. My whole family died, leaving just me behind. That's why I'm going back to them once I've gotten my single truth. If you learn the truth, you'll just have to learn to accept your family's deaths. Haven't you ever thought about living on, hoping that by some miracle one of them might have survived, and that someday you might get a chance to see them again? I'm not worried about that. Even the Witch of Miracles couldn't find a fragment like that. In the Great Rokkenjima explosion, almost none of the family remains were recovered. Some days, I hope that this might be a sign that they had escaped the explosion and survived. That hope gave me the strength to live on. Like I said before, Battler could be have a head injury and been in a coma this whole time on an island. Or have amnesia and be just living as a farmer. However, that hope wasn't strong enough to support me for 12 long years. So even though I wanted to know the truth, I unconsciously averted my eyes. Battler is tall. I felt that learning of my family's deaths for certain would force me to deny any possibility of someone miraculously surviving, but I'm tired of living on and on without nothing but that impossible hope of a miracle to keep me going. That's why I decided to accept my family's deaths. I decided to accept the truth no matter what it is. That's why I became a Witch of Truth, instead of the Witch of Resurrections, which is what you started off as. How foolish to be blind about the truth of the past and unable to see one's own future. Forgive me, Battler. I was not strong enough to guide your sister properly. A blazing blue wedge appeared in Angie's hand. It was long, thick, and shaped like a spear. This is the end, Witch of 1986. This closed room is perfect. Therefore, I can't get out, and you can't lay a finger on me from the outside. However, you locked me in this room. So we can say you killed me with this simple trick. You shut me in this perfect closed room and made me starve to death. Since you intentionally did this, it's fair to say this is a closed room murder with you as the killer. It looks like being overly vague with the cause of death backfired on you. So long, Witch of Illusions. See you in hell. With the stained glass window behind her, Beato spread her arms and let the spear of the blue truth pierce her. The blue spear seemed to crucify Beato against the window. Game set. So this is on Ava's diary, the Book of the Single Truth. Angie picked the book up from where it lay on the altar, sealed in crystal. If you read that, then by your contract with Bernkastel, you will die. Learning the truth just to die? Ridiculous. That's right. I'm looking for the truth so I can die. At least let me choose how I go. I'm not an idiot. I know the real me is still floating in that starry sky. Bernkastel acknowledged me as the final Beatrice, and invited me on a journey to learn the truth in 1986. I won't be able to return here again. When Bernkastel told me that and walked off the roof into the black sky, I followed her into the empty air. That was the contract. I wanted two things from Bernkastel. One was for someone from my family to come back. The other was revenge. I wanted to destroy the illusion of the witch that hid the events of that day. I wanted to reach the truth. However, the first of my wishes couldn't come true. After all, even the Witch of Miracles couldn't find a fragment where my family came home, so she wordlessly questioned me. She told me that I couldn't reach the truth unless I had the courage to end this worthless life, where I lived like a ghost hoping someone might come back. So she walked out in the open air and I followed her. Yes, now I can understand. When I offered to trade away my life, I made one wish and gave up the other. I wished for revenge against the illusion hiding the truth, and now I've succeeded in that revenge, defeating the master of that illusion and obtaining the book of the single truth. What I gave up was my naivete, my continuing belief that someone from my family might come back, and now I can accept that my entire family is dead. Can you make someone alive just because no one knows any different? These cat boxes you talk about are just naive delusions. The idea that a corpse can live as long as you keep it hidden, but even if you hide a corpse, it's still dead. Do you really think you can heal my wounds by saying that it'll always be watching over me from the clouds like some kind of fairy tale? I'm Angie Beatrice, a witch of truth. I'll free myself from that life as a ghost, waiting for a miracle that'll never happen. I'll end my life as a noble martyr who's reached the truth. Didn't you once come to understand the power of magic through Maria's grimoire? Yeah, I understood it. Yeah, I understood it. And then I despaired when I realized how powerless it was. And that's what Oni-chan is trying to force me to use now, isn't it? If I believe if I use magic, then my family will always be by my side. Don't take me for a fool. You think that kind of magic and illusion a daydream can heal those 12 years? And how am I supposed to go on for decades and decades into the future? Someone come back to me, someone. But no one's coming back, so at least tell me what happened that day. Bernkastel said she'd tell me. My master, I have the book of the single truth. I'll take it back to you, so give me the truth. For so long I've been prepared to throw away my naive hopes for a miracle. Now tell me the truth of that day. A blinding light poured out of the chapel. It seeped from the windows and the cracks of the door, even reaching as far as Battler's and Erika's eyes. What? It seems Comrade Angie has completed her task. It looks like you've set up some pathetic seal, but to my master, that'll be easier than thawing frozen saury. I don't know what fucking saury is. What is that? S-A-U-R-Y, I assume? Like, what type of fish is that? Soy sauce? I don't know. Damn, Master said I could play with you until Angie finished her task. I've had enough fun from this reunion, so I think it's time for me to leave. Erika gave an elegant curtsy. Why did you talk Angie into looking for the single truth? Your master must know that truth doesn't mean anything to Angie. Yes, all truths in this world are meaningless. In the end, meaning comes from the mind of each individual human. Even when there is a single truth, it can mean different things to different people. The truth has no meaning in itself. There's just one reason why I'm still stuck on the truth despite it all. Because you're the detective. Good. But Angie-san isn't a detective. To her, the truth itself is the finish line. A way to mark the end of her unhappy life. Now she's finally finished the final purification ceremony. She's a one-night witch of truth focused on learning a certain single truth before she dies. A temporary witch for the short time until she slams against the ground. I won't let Angie die. No matter how tough it gets, she has to live. That's the only thing all of us want. If she lives, all sorts of magic and miracles would be possible. If only you had put your arm around her shoulder and told her that directly, you might not have lost. What do you think? Just by hearing you howl, this level of reasoning is possible for Rudo Erika. Live, Angie! He yelled towards the chapel, but Angie probably wasn't even there anymore. Battler's yell was swallowed by the empty pitch-black sky and the sea of rampaging goats. Comrade EVA, our mission is complete. Let's withdraw. Oh, are we done already? And I was just about to tear the island apart with my own Ava culprit theory. Ava appeared in midair and cackled. Sorry, Battler-kun, that I wasn't strong enough. For 12 years, I protected that kid in my own way. I'm grateful. However, she's decided this for herself. She's 18 years old now. Don't you think people should decide how they live with their own lives? Sorry for being a doting big brother. Later. I'm Lady Bernkastel's piece at the moment. It's time for me to go. I'm just sort of imagining the island, but like the entire ocean is like dried up around it, so it's It's more like a plateau. It's just a giant pillar with a little bit of grass and building on top of it. So more just like imagine a very tall pillar of rock in the middle of a desert. A flat desert. That is a bunch of like lush trees and buildings on it. I'll see you later, Comrade Ava. Ava held her palm open and a small pointy blue fragment appeared there. The fragment burst, and with a blinding flash of light, Ava vanished. It was the same light that had seeped out of the chapel earlier. Pieces cannot leave the game board, however the Voyager witches alone could come and go. This was probably some sort of magic that Bernkastel had given them. Erica opened her palm as well, and the same sort of fragment appeared there. That's enough for now, I think. Who knows? This might be the last time we meet. Wait. We haven't settled our fight yet. If he could steal the fragment in Erica's hands, he would be able to go to where Bernkastel was. The seal surrounding the Book of the Single Truth would probably be melted easily by Bernkastel's power. However, even so, it would take her some time. If he could steal the fragment, he would have a chance of bringing Angie back. What is there to settle? Time's up. However, if you feel like taking one last hit, I'd be happy to oblige. Battler had known that Erica wouldn't be able to resist the challenge. After all, he already knew what her trick was. I mean, you haven't even seen my final form yet. Come on, Vegeta, let me absorb Android 18. He'd figured it out just a second ago. Even while he spoke with Erica, he had been thinking about it inside his mind. He could finish her with this last strike and take the fragment. Let's go, Erica. This'll decide it. This clash will be the last before I go, so go ahead and give me the craziest of your hilarious theories. Your closed room definition stated that the walls, window, floors, ceiling, and chain were all unbeatable. However, there was one possibility that I didn't check because it was too ridiculous, and that was whether or not the chain could be set from the outside. Blue truth. This is the answer to your closed room. The length of the chain. The chain for your closed room was extra long, so it was possible to set and unset it from the outside. What a ridiculous answer. However, you blindly assume that a lock made by an unbreakable chain makes a closed room unbeatable, then this truly would be a perfect closed room. The blue wedge flung from Battler's hand plunged straight in Erica's chest. As she winced in pain, her hand shook, and the fragment she held flew into the air. Your closed room definition stated the walls, windows, floor, door, and chain were unbeatable. However, there wasn't there one really ridiculous thing missing? Blue truth. Your closed room had no ceiling, so it was possible to enter by climbing over the wall. Erica's loose scythe swung out from behind her back, catching Battler in the side as he stretched his hand towards the fragment. Battler's hand didn't reach it. The fragment returned to Erica's hands once more. It looks like our tricks were equally ridiculous. The mystery nuts would have been furious, don't you think? But I disagree. To me, the process of exposing that ridiculousness is ecstasy. That's why I'm Fruto Erica, the detective. Damn it. You figured out the answer a while back, didn't you? Not true. I thought it up between the time you let loose your blue truth and the time you stretched your hand out to grab the fragment. I've just been buying time since the beginning. I only started reasoning a second ago. Erica broke the crystal barrier that surrounded them. Then she flew high up in the sky, looking down at Battler and laughing at him as she gave one final bow. So long, Battler-san. Even if this has been my only time to shine, even if I've outlived my usefulness and I'm about to be thrown back in the depths of oblivion, even so I have no regrets. But wait. Like she'd actually wait just because I told her to. With a blinding flash, Erica vanished. Angie had retrieved the Book of the Single Truth and returned to Bernkastel. Battler and the others had no way to leave the game board. Everything had come to an end. A gold butterfly flitted by and Beato appeared. My apologies, Battler. I let Angie get away. I'm sorry, too. We've let them escape. It's all over. Battler had created this game for Angie. Now that Angie was gone, the game board no longer had any purpose, and even if that hadn't been the case, the game board itself had been chewed to bits by the goats and was now like a single leaf floating on a sea of nothingness. Thanks to Gertrude and Cornelia's seals, the mansion was protected from the second floor up. The door to the Golden Land was now open wide enough for a child to slip through. The smaller people, like Maria and Sakutaro, went through it. My friend, I believe the door is opening at a quicker pace. Indeed, to my eyes as well, it seems to be so. Father, is the door open yet? It looks like they're about to break through the windows. Kurao-sama, there is no need for you to fear. An Asun Jungfrau barrier is not so easily broken. Very soon it'll be big enough for adults to go through too. Don't worry, we'll make it in time. But there's knocking and banging everywhere and... Stay calm and wait. After all, there is nothing else we can do. Even the outer walls of the mansion were covered with goats, and they were plunging their fangs and fists into the walls and windows trying to crush them. So anyone watching the goats stuck to all of the windows in the hallways, smashing their thick arms against the windows, couldn't help but be terrified, even if they knew about the barrier. However, anyone watching the group of goats gathered at the top of the big staircases on the other side of the barrier would probably feel a different emotion, but rather than terror, it was a sad, empty sort of emotion. The barrier was drawn across the land at the top of the hall's great staircase. Beyond the barrier, everything had already been eaten away. Was it even possible for those who stood in the hallway on the upper floors to believe that this was the Rakanjima mansion? By now, no one was looking at the scene would be able to imagine such a thing. Forget the hall or even the whole first floor. Even the ground itself was almost gone. The sea of goats had eaten everything apart long before this. They had eaten apart the hall, the pillars of the mansion, the floor, the ground, the sea, the very concept of the island, every part of the game board Battler had created. And now the only leftover was the upper part of the mansion, which floated along in empty space. In an empty space. How pitiful. To what do you refer? The goats, in their eagerness to chew this island apart, have eaten up even the ground they stood on, dropping themselves into nothingness. This had once been a huge entrance hall. Beyond it had been a vast rose garden. There had been so many places to stand upon. However, now holes had been dug everywhere, and nearly everything outside the mansion was completely gone. Some goats were clutching to the few remaining footholds and pillars, still eating away at them. Let it be known that exposing the truth is murder. Why can't humans live without killing, I wonder? Throughout their long history, so many have prayed for miracles, but in the end they eat up their own chances at receiving them, eating up the very ground they stand on and falling into the abyss. They saw a goat chewing the same pillar that was holding it up, which unsurprisingly fell into empty blackness along with the goat. Humans are sad creatures fated to live in order to learn. If learning means eating away at the same hopes and dreams that keep you alive. That would mean humans are born just so that they can die. We're taught that we want to live. However, almost everything that we accomplish in life ends up killing us. Don't think about it.